Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News.
Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News. Survivor News.
And we are back with your Survivor News, covering Survivor Season 46, Episode 12. And I am excited for this week's episode. We've got our favorite baby boy, Jack Atkins, from the Netflix Season 2. The Circle was popping, Jack.
What's up? What's up? I'm in Chicago, coming to you live from my friend's apartment. So excited to discuss a great episode, and we got some great other people in the mix.
Absolutely. Some call him a goat from Winners at War, or maybe the goat of Ghost Island. Also, the GOAT on Amazon Prime, currently streaming now. Episode 4 is out. Make sure you check out when DZ's The GOAT Pod. Wendell, welcome back to the podcast. What's up?
It's good to be back. Thank you for having me back. And I'm excited for this next guest.
I am really excited. This is actually, Jack, the first legitimate actual winner to welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have the man, the myth, the legend. You might remember him from season 43, the Gabler. Let's welcome Mike Gabler to the podcast. Mike,
great to see you guys. So fun to be here. This is awesome. We've got such a great show to talk about too.
It has been a season and an episode. Wendell and I just wrapped up our Philadelphia show here in Philly last night, and it definitely was an epic show. And all roads lead to the finale next week for the Brice and Wynn Present Season 46 finale. We've got 2 days of events for everyone. We have our Real Talk panel, which tickets are still available. We have our karaoke nights. We have our international brunch with our Survivor Quebec, our Survivor Australian friends, and some more surprises. And all things are leading to the finale on May 22nd. Wendell, do you have anything to report about the finale?
And just that this finale is sold out. And if you want to make it to anything, make it to the other events or make it to this karaoke welcome party. You'll be able to meet pretty much everybody. And that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic time. But listen, we got a lot to cover. So, Jack, where are we starting today, Jack?
I got to start off. I got beef with someone, Brice, and I got to address it. We've been talking spoilers during the season in terms of what is considered a spoiler. And for the first time this season, I was partially spoiled by my own uncle on this episode. And so, Uncle Jim. Come on, man.
Come on, Uncle Jim.
I landed on my flight and I was ready to go to my friend's house and settle in and watch the episode. And he's like, "What's with all these people not playing their idols?" And I was like, so as soon as Q found the idol, I was like, "Oh man!" But as a Charlie supporter, it did help ease a lot of those tensions while watching the episode. But regardless, it was a great episode. If I didn't know that Charlie was safe, I might have had a heart attack. So,
Jack, there is another beef that I have seen on the Instagram. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Mike, but you've been watching the episodes or the season, correct? And you saw the Applebee's reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we're on the block, Q is out here shutting down Applebee's. Applebee's just announced this week that they're closing 35 locations. And of course, Q has to take to his Instagram with Silk the Shaka. And Mystical. It ain't my fault.
He's a character, man. He's a character.
Mike, when's the last time you've been to Applebee's?
I haven't been to Applebee's in a long time. I did walk by one at the Dallas airport and took my picture and sent it to Mike and Jonathan from 42 because they're always big on that. So just as a joke. But no, I haven't been there in a long time. I am intrigued because, this was like the ultimate season for Applebee's in that Liz lives and dies for Applebee's as much as she does for Survivor. And that was genuine. They could not have gotten a better spokesperson caring about that bourbon burger than her.
Absolutely. And even last night, the recent vote out mentioned Applebee's in their exit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right, Jack. Because Q mentioned it also. It's this has been a very Applebee season. On our season, we were wondering if we were going to get, Applebee's at the merge reward thing. We didn't. We just had a, charcuterie thing, whatever it was. But it was really great. Of course, you're starving, so it's even better. But we were all like, I wonder if it's going to be Applebee's. Maybe it'll be KFC. Maybe it'll be Popeyes. We were just going.
Mike, what you know about a Popeyes?
Oh, hey, I'm from Texas. I'm from the South. So, Houston does a little Mardi Gras, Beaumont. And of course, I've been to Mardi Gras a bunch of times when I lived down there. 6-hour shot straight east.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the Q situation, we do kick off the episode. So, a lot of people were like last week, why did Ben vote for Kenzie? And I think a lot of us, especially coming from a strategic standpoint, we're like, well, it's a split vote in case there's an idle play or there's a shot in the dark. Turns out Ben just forgot who he was voting for. And he was really, we've seen people say, oh, I messed up in the past. I'm thinking, maybe a Natalie Anderson in San Juan del Sur. But here, Ben is genuinely like, I just messed up. And I don't think we've ever seen that before.
And everyone's like, I feel like everyone believed him too. Like, I'm like, yeah,
I did.
He messed up.
Yeah, it was a shocker. I know Cara from Australian Survivor was with King George. I think it was on the first time they played together. I think it's maybe season 6 or whatever that was. She did the same thing where she wrote the wrong name down, and it completely, at least Ben didn't really alter the game. It was Venus still went out. It was okay. Cara's vote down there blew up that entire thing and ended up getting her home. So really wild. Ben's got to keep it focused here on this next vote or two. He's got to get it together.
I've been guilty of getting up a little earlier and putting on the wrong shoes. So I feel like I can relate to Ben. Lack of sleep, laying on that bamboo will do it to you every time.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
it's really true. You're really beaten down out there. You're exhausted. You're going in there, and he may have been thinking even like, don't write Kenzie, and somehow put Kenzie in there. I don't know. It's funny.
Kenzie and Venus aren't obviously very similar names, but in a way they have a similar vibe, I feel like. So I don't know. I guess this though, they said let's just give him one letter and make it a lot easier for him.
Start with a letter.
Yeah, but I guess he's able to recover. I mean, we've seen he and Kenzie have such a bond on the island, and Kenzie gives him some flack for it, but ultimately, she's still there for him when he's struggling at night and things like that. And I think that's a great move from Kenzie. We've seen a lot of people this season. A big issue for them is someone does something against you, and they hold grudges. And so now it's nice to see someone be like, okay, hey, like I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt and bringing them back in, which I think is really good for Kenzie's game.
Yeah, because
she gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh. I see what you did there.
Now that Wendell's a father, the puns just happen. Puns, it just happens, man. It's only going to get worse, Wendell. Trust me.
So bad. Yeah, that's the truth.
I respect Kenzie a lot, though, because I don't know if I would have had enough. I don't know if I would have been able to have that grace whipping. I would have been like, he's got to go. You wrote my name. So it was good to kind of see Kenzie just be able to shed love and understand that,
Yeah, it's her personality, and I think that's what makes her so magical and attractive. I mean, she's somebody that, how can you not want to work with her? She's got that great smile, good energy. She's smart. She's kind of the hiding in plain sight person for this week anyways, because Maria's stock is, her target's gotten big. Charlie's has gotten big. Liz is working in there. Ben's also, playing that game in the shadows where I don't know how much of it's the edit, how much of it's him, but he's still there. And aside from Q, was the only person that kept writing his name down. I think he's probably advancing. It's hard. It's anybody's guess right now because Jeff and the guys do such a great job editing it, but it's pretty exciting finish right now.
Definitely. And I keep saying every episode, like, we don't see much of Ben, but I feel like every time there's big decisions to be made or anytime he's there, they're always having conversations with him. And so again, I'm like, is this an Gabler they trying to pull on us where it's like he really could be in the mix? And so it's with this only one episode left, it's like I guess we will really see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking Ben could be a sneaky dark horse if he ends up with like a Liz and a Q at the end. But now writing the wrong name down and with Q going home, I am a little bit lower on his chances. But I mean, Gabe was absolutely right. He's been consistently in the mix, and he's also just really well liked by people. And
He is.
there's something to be said about that if you can get to the end with some people that are not as well liked.
And maybe he's got something more that we haven't seen that he would, because the time to be self-aggrandizing and the time to really trumpet all the greatness that you think you've been a part of is that final tribal, right? If you get there. And, we saw last season with Emily, coming out a little early and wanting to validate her game and herself by taking credit for Bruce's blindside, which she did a masterful job. We all saw it at home, but I don't think they saw it on the island until she pointed it out. The problem was she pointed it out too early in the game, and people were like, oh, she is playing really hard. She is really smart, and doggone it, people like her. That's got to go. So it's all about when you show your hand. And I think final tribals when you lay all your cards down right then.
Gabe, it's interesting to hear you talk about that, Gabler, and I'd love for you to elaborate more because something we've talked about on the pod this season is how so many of the 46 castaways are so all about getting credit for different moves. And you take the credit, and like you referenced with Emily last season, as soon as you grab this credit, it puts a big target on your back. Right. We've been high on Charlie because I think last week, it was really smart of Charlie to be like, hey, I'm going to give Maria the credit in order to make her target bigger. But obviously on your season, you made a few moves early in the merge, and then you alligated into the shadows a little bit, and then you were able to come back around at the end. Was that something you were actively working on during the season, or it just sort of worked out in hindsight? But what was like your thought process with that?
Survivor is extremely strategic in that you have to be patient. And when you're ready to make your shot, you might really want to do it right now, but maybe it's better to do it in 4 days. Maybe you've got to have a few more things line up before you take that shot. And when it comes to taking credit for things that happen, it's a very fine line because this season has been very resume focused. I think last night was the first episode this season that they did not say the word resume. And it's great to have a resume, but I think they're way, you just can't be as focused on the minutia of the bullet points on your resume as you are the macro strategy getting to the end. Because the longer you're there, the fewer opponents you have and the better chance you have to tell your story. So, Q just needed to live one more day. And, that's kind of the lesson there too.
I always bring up James Jones on the podcast, Mike. And of course, here I come with another James Jones quote because James Jones always is calling me and rehashing the episode. And James Jones, he put it to me the other day, was like, you could have a great resume, but in the job interview, if you can't deliver on just who you are and sell yourself to the job, you're not going to get the job. So what's the point of a great resume if you can't sit in the job interview and deliver what the resume is? And so shout out.
Love
to
that
James
analogy.
Jones.
And also you have to sit in that interview. You got to make it to the interview. So like you got to make it to the end to even be able to pitch your case. And if you want to, take these, and we've seen Gabler, we've seen a lot of these people taking these big shots at their friends and their allies early. And like, hey, I did not take a big shot at my ally, and I was able to sit at the end and plead my case.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Can I jump around a little bit? Because, in the words of the great Liz, I'm pissed in this new era, right? Because what you just brought up, Wendell, like you didn't take a shot at your number one and you got to the end. What is it? And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Y'all help me out. But like, what is it in this new era that you got to go against your number one? And so it has my mind messed up because now it's like for the new people that will play Survivor, it's like your number one is your biggest enemy. And like, I don't understand that logic. And it's like really frustrating. And especially like with Maria and Charlie, it's like, I love them. And it's like, I want y'all to the end. But something that you said, Jack, like where Charlie allowed Maria to have that credit. And I feel like, did Charlie doing that kind of boost Maria to the sense of like, now I got to get rid of Charlie because I see what he's doing. Like, why you can't go to the end with your number one?
Well, I totally agree with you, but I think what I like about this season is everyone is so obsessed with taking out their number one, but ultimately I think the winner is most likely going to be a
Number
Charlie or a Maria or perhaps a Kenzie who actually failed at taking out her number one. And so hopefully the lesson to future players is you don't need to take out your number one. And obviously, I mean, for the Charlie Maria situation, taking out your number one at like a final 5 is the perfect time to do that. Or maybe you take them out in fire making, like Wendell considered doing in Ghost Island, and like a lot of people have done. And
considered it in Ghost Island.
I'm sorry, yeah, like Dom considered doing in Ghost Island, and maybe that's the time, because I guess like with the Ghost Island reference, if you don't do that, then you have to sit next to your number one and you might lose. So it's really all, in my mind, it's a timing thing. But taking out your number one at final 10 is not setting yourself up for a lot of success. And to your point, Brice, now with this, that's why I like how this example ultimately I think is going to prove not to take out your number one, because it would be so weird to go into a season of Survivor as a player and be like let's be number one. So you'd be like, wait a second, like,
Right.
Yeah, you're number one for a couple days, and then you'll switch. And that was, Tiffany, when Kenzie went after Tiffany, Tiffany, and it ended up going home the week later, but it wasn't by Kenzie. And Kenzie was heartbroken because she was left out of the vote. She didn't have a lot of agency in that particular episode we saw. And probably because her number one was gone. The person she most trusted was cut free from her. And she started that, she kind of planted that seed going. And I think you do have to be careful because, bringing in Survivor, if you can have one person you trust pretty much, that really helps you. You can build on that. If you keep taking out your number one, like look this season with the 6. Remember when they were concocting the 6? And I'm like, oh, that's a genius idea. It's the 3 people that got one on the journey. They got the reward. They figured out how to manipulate that. They all brought in 1. So when they got to the merge, they'd have 6. That held up for a hot minute and it was gone. It was blown up. The 6, Maria's the last of the 6 left.
Yeah. Well, Charlie was a late addition.
Right. It was an add-on.
But to that point, it's like, I actually think there's some benefits to Kenzie's game in, it's nice to have a number one around, someone you can really operate with. But for a Kenzie to not be a part of her number one going home, I think that opens up her game in a sense where people are like, okay, now her number one's out, but she never betrayed them. So maybe that's someone I want to work with. And also you have someone going to the jury who's going to sing your praises and who's not going to be bitter at all. And ultimately, I think for Kenzie, if a Charlie or a Maria doesn't get to the end, and there could be some clear dominoes in that happening at 5 and 4, then I think obviously Kenzie could sweep a jury sitting next to Ben and Liz. So again, it's not bad to necessarily lose your number one if you play your cards right.
Yeah, it's timing, right? You can, if you've got to go to knives and you got to do that, you're doing it at fire, you're doing it at final 5. You want to kind of go deep. When my main alliance that I was on the island with was Jesse and Cody, and Jesse ended up going after his number one, which was Cody, and it was a great move. And it's a famous blindside. It's a savage blindside, right? Cody and Jesse became like this. He's a legendary player because of that. But strategically to get through the game, it was very hard on him because as soon as he did that, everybody, like the Emily example, was like, oh no, he's freaking dangerous. That guy is dangerous. And he wasn't able to, in Survivor, you got to be good, but you also have to be lucky. And he just kind of ran out of luck. He was a lucky dog, but he ran out of luck that day.
So should you be aiming to be the third in the triangle? Because does the number 3 actually work out better if because people are always like, I don't want to join that alliance because I'm going to be at the bottom. And ain't nothing wrong with being at the bottom, but I'm just saying, if in a triangle though, like if the 2 people are at the top and you're the third person, I actually think that that's a more advantageous place to be, especially in this new era.
And I totally agree. And it reminds me of a lot of Blood vs. Water seasons where your loved one gets voted out, now every other duo, a bona fide obvious duo who is there as a loved one,
They looking
they're
for
like,
what?
oh, you could be our number 3 because you don't have anyone else to be loyal to. So in a lot, we've seen people in Blood versus Water seasons like Tyson and Natalie. They lose their blood early on in the game, and in a way, they're able to be a lot of people's
Frees
number
them up.
3, which I think ideally it's a little bit harder in a less obvious duo situation than a Blood versus Water. But I think that's a great example, Brice, is if you could be everyone's number 3, you're sort of just an option for everyone, but not a number 1 that needs to be cut per se.
I said it once, I say it again. Don't knock it till you try it. So listen, I'm open to a 3. So okay.
3 is a good number. 3 is a really good number in Survivor. I think because the tribes have gotten small, so if you can be a part of a trio, you're going to have information. You're probably going to have your own, feelers out, and you can come together and share a lot of information and be that swing group. Because when we were on that ride or die, we were in the middle choosing night to night what was going to happen, and we would have very brief conversations because we didn't want anybody to see us really. And so we would get it all figured out in the jungle. I'd never even look at them when we walk into Valve conference. That's what I just got out of that. When we walk into tribal council and just do my vote and sit down, and it was always like we were locked and loaded every time. We knew how it was going to go down, and that was it was a beautiful thing. It's like when the plan comes together, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
That's a good strategy.
And
like not even it's like I tried to keep, a lot of people knew that I was working with Dom and Laurel and even Donathan, but being so not even while you're on the boat or going in the tent or all this stuff that happens before you walk out, not even engaging with them. That's one way to do it. I like it.
Something you should have maybe tried, Wendell, on 40. I think that maybe we could have switched things up a little bit.
How'd you do on 40, Brice?
Listen, Gabler said he liked the number 3, and I was the 3rd out. So it's an honor, okay? It's an honor.
But to that same point, I mean, especially in the new era where it's a lot of 3 tribe seasons where it's groups of 6, if you get that 3 early on, that's basically a majority. If you get a tight 3, you just pull someone in a tribe of 6. So you can go a long way with that. Whereas, in the olden days of 2 tribe seasons, 9, 10 people, a 3 isn't as strong. You still got to pull in some more numbers. Not to mention the merge where you have a mergatory and then you have a split tribal. You're not really doing it. The biggest vote you're ever going to see is 10, and then a 3 there is still pretty effective. So
it is pretty effective. And you look at it, there's 3 is a pretty good number because if you have more people to keep track of than 2, the trust gets a little rusty, a little loose in that trust out there. You start getting an alliance of 4, 5. You're really not sure what's happening. But when there's 3, because me, Owen, and Sammy were in a 3. Me, Cassidy, and Owen were in a 3. Me, Carla, and Jesse were a 3. Me, Jesse, and Cody were the real 3 in the middle. But we were moving, and all those little 3s were like gears grinding together, right? And all those gears were touching each other and coming around. We were trying to figure out what to do, and it allowed you to be pretty nimble. I think it's like almost like a SEAL team, right? You got this little small tight group that can move on a dime.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
So what happens if you're 3 and the 3 you've got Q as one of your 3s? How do you think that will work out though?
You play your idol.
Okay.
And moving towards that, I mean, so we have this reward challenge, and Charlie wins and gets to bring people to the sanctuary for some Chinese food.
What a win, too.
And also, he finds out after he wins that there's going to be some love, some letters from home, and he picks Liz and Kenzie, much to Maria's disdain. But do you think that was the right choice from Charlie?
I think it was the right gameplay move, wrong emotional move, right? Because for me, I always, as a survivor, fan and lover. I love the letters and I love the family visits, right? Like I just always get emotional. I just love seeing
Yeah.
someone's loved ones. I remember Wendell season, seeing Wendell's dad out there. Like I love that. And so Maria being a mother, knowing she has 3 boys out there, like that was just hard to watch. And even if I was Charlie and I had that agreement with Maria that I'm not going to bring you on a challenge because that's a great strategic move. Like, let's keep each other away. Let's bring in the people that we need to.
Yes.
I don't know. In that moment, me being a son and having a mother, like, I don't know if I would have been able to actually pull that trigger and not bring Maria, which is also, in my opinion, a resume booster for Charlie, because that was, yeah, he did that because I know that had to have been hard. And then just watching Dr. Maria try to like suck it up and like, not really give her emotions, but you could just see she was broken, and just knowing that like all of the things of the world, knowing her sons were writing her a letter, that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
What do you think, Wendell?
I agree. I felt for her. She loves her family, and like she misses her boys, and I'm sure she was telling them all about her family. And but again, like on Ghost Island, I believe I won like a steak reward or something like that. And I had Laurel out there, I had Dom out there, I had Donathan out there. I believe I picked Angela and Sebastian to come with me. And a few nights later, they're sitting on the jury, and both of them voted for me.
Yes.
So,
I'm going to take the contrarian view on that, where I agree with your move, Wendell. I think it's heart wrenching, Brice, Jack, to watch that. But strategically, I thought it was masterful play where he brought the people he needed. Because if he was going to do a coup on, and blindside Maria, he needed those 2 specifically.
Yeah.
They also were not, it looked more almost, I think, from the 3 that didn't go, like he was just being a good guy. Liz is, who hadn't been on a reward. And so he was able to get away with that. The wrench in the whole thing was Maria's visceral reaction to not getting to see the letters from her kids. And that was, I don't think he was factoring that in, but I think he managed it okay. And I also get where if you've got a number 1, just say, Brice, me and you are super close. We're going here. Hey, man, we're doing this reward. If I win, I'm not taking you because you got to take care of babysitting camp or vice versa. So I had that plan with Owen on my season. And towards the end, there was that freaking puzzle. The words are just long enough to where it'll fit, right? It's like dangerous works, adventurer works, all the, like you get a big one and you kind of stick with it. That was my downfall. But Owen got that, won that. We were starving. And I'm looking at Owen, like trying to communicate telepathically with him, like, forget what we said. I'm so hungry. Pick me. But he sent, he went with Cassidy like we had talked about. He probably did that strategically because I think that's where he was going. But we did have that agreement. I was going to babysit back at camp. I think the difference in this scenario, it was such a gut punch to poor Maria that she was ineffective babysitting back at camp because she was, she needed care and she needed people to help her. And it kind of stirred a bunch of stuff that we're still not done seeing the chaos caused by all that,
I think that's a great point because, I think obviously there's so many emotional factors when it comes to reward. And it's easy to say watching from home when you're not starving or you want love from home. But I think the strategist in me, I think the real value is how do you put these groups together that's going to maximize your game? Who can you bring that you might be able to work with? And also, I mean, it reminds me of my good buddy Xander in 41. He said something along the lines of, I don't want to go on the reward because there's some value in being with the losers. Because if you're in the position where you need new allies or you need to twist the game around, the people back at camp that are hungry and pissed off might be a little bit more willing to change the game. And so honestly, I know a couple times this season, I think people volunteered to give up a reward and it didn't end up working out. But it almost, part of me was like, maybe Charlie could give up his reward to Maria, but he also wants that time with Kenzie and Liz to solidify this upcoming.
It's tricky, right? I mean, Jeff and those guys, they do such an amazing job of keeping you off balance, and you're already in the fog of physical from sleeping, hunger, thirst, all the other stuff, and then you're there with these super complex emotional decisions that are very important, 5 chess moves ahead, and you're doing this. You could feel it. It was palpable, right, Brice? I mean, you felt that. It was just heartbreaking to watch, but that's part of why we love Survivor, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And the organic nature of it is what's so fun. Jeff doesn't know what's going to happen. He sets a table, but we put it all together, which is really interesting.
I think another like key, just something that I watch, I always look for little stuff. And for me, I'm like, Charlie is good, because when he picked Liz, not only did he pick her, but he named her daughter, right? Like, and it's like, for me, that's the little stuff where it's like, he is getting to know these people, and just the fact of him even saying that name, if it were to come down to the end, like that's a vote right there. And so it's like, Charlie, I see you. I see you, Charlie.
He's genuinely connecting with everyone, and like the non-pizza people, remember that was a thing too, right? You go back there. When you're doing that, you are making relationships that he didn't have before that loss. His stock rose after that loss because he played it just right.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's what separates. That's why I'm more on board with a Charlie win than a Maria win. And I think even this episode, that's why it works out for us.
All of that.
But even, I mean, look at this episode. Look who emerges triumphantly in this Charlie Maria battle, because he's able to win over the Liz and the Kenzie. And it could boil down to something as small as last episode, Maria really fumbled the way that she picked for the reward and left Liz feeling very discontent. Whereas this episode, Charlie brings her, plays it perfect, and gets the people that he needs on his side.
Scooped her up
to win this first. He may not end up winning the war. We'll see what happens, but he definitely won the battle this episode.
No, well, right, but also I think what I love about, first of all, I hate that it's the Charlie and Maria battle, but also it's so good, right? Because it's like we love them, and I love the fact that you're right. Charlie played this excellent, and Maria kind of stumbled a little bit, but you saw that fire that it lit, right? Like, and I think
it lit a fire.
And that's something that you can't quantify in Survivor when it's like, when you get pissed, shout out to Liz, but when you get pissed, you never know what's going to happen. And so like, I'm with you, but I'm not counting Dr. Maria out, because I'm just saying, like, that fire in her for me was like, here
and
we
even
go.
The music even told the story. This episode had particularly like really good or eerie,
I noticed that.
Spooky or suspenseful music. They did a great job.
I noticed that it was really impressive. They really put together a great show for sure.
Yeah. The editing was phenomenal this episode for sure. I've seen a lot of praise for that, because even back at camp during the reward, or once Charlie and them get back from the reward, we see these sort of dueling confessionals from Charlie and Maria of like, is it my time to make a move? Are they suspecting that I'm going to make a move?
Dueling. It was very well done. Yeah. Like literally they were saying the same things and changing the frames. Spooky. I'll tell you though, I think, so before we do that, who was your winner pick? Go around the horn. Who was your winner pick in the beginning? What do you guys have? Who do you have now?
So, I do It's a Look with Rob. And so I always judge my winner picks off of their look. And so I loved me some Kenzie. But as the episode started, and where we're at now, it's like, I think I might be team Dr. Marie. I think Dr. Marie is like my now new winner pick.
Yeah, great. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, I know. I didn't at the beginning of the season. I didn't make a formal winner pick. I would say I was definitely high on like a Tiffany and a Kenzie
and a Jelinski.
Jack. Don't.
We gonna hold you to it.
But the Jelinski was more of a personal bias, because I was just team Jelinski. But now, I mean, ever since the merge, I really think Charlie's been playing his ass off. I said it last week. I thought last week's episode was phenomenal for him. I think this week's episode was fantastic for him. If he ends up winning the season, I think he could go down as one of the strongest players in the new era. So he's really, like you said, there's so much, I think specifically in the new era, so much importance on like timing and being patient and maintaining those relationships and like building them up until the time to like strike is correct. And I think Charlie's just really put on a show on how to do that.
Very patient. How about you, Wendell? Did you start off the season with a favorite?
I think I think I predicted Tim as my winner. And now, man, I think that with Charlie and Maria, you have Maria being the one that voted for Charlie that is still on the island going into next episode. Maria is this strong player. We've seen her win. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on her. She just shatters this beautiful partnership that they've had. A lot of eyes are going to be on her. Publicly, yes. And Charlie is this character that's been like moving and masterminding as well. So I'm scared for Maria, Brice. I'm high on Charlie. Scared for Maria, high on Charlie, but I could see them gunning for Charlie too.
And she's good enough to sway them to do that. It's possible, right? Even though she's in a bad place going into the next episode, she can figure it out and she can do well with this because, you know, when I did a Survivor League this year, in fact, it's funny. The day we flew back from Fiji, we walk into the LA airport. I'm ordering a Jersey Mike sandwich. I'm like lost 30 pounds. I'm sitting there eating my sandwich. This little girl walks up with her dad and she goes, "Are you a guy from Survivor?" I literally landed. But they put the commercial on TV. And this girl, about 11 years old, named Natalie, literally saw me, got her dad. Her dad comes over. I was freaked out because I just got back. Wow. And so I'm like, "Well, Dad, I can't tell you what I am, but clearly you guys like Survivor. Tell you what, Dad, give me your email. I'll take a picture on my camera of us. And if the season happens to go anywhere, I'll send you this picture." So though that family's become a very close, special family, they're really cool. And I'm in a Survivor League with those guys. So it's really funny. It's come full circle. But that's why I was asking, because the beginning of the season, I was like, okay, I'm thinking Maria, because I usually go, I'm going to be honest here. I'm always going to go probably for the older character. I got to pick an older character to go for. And she was like, I'm like, she's got life experience. She's got a look. I think she's got a good one. And there's several to choose from where, you know, it was really hard. Probably had 5 I had to really pack down. But pick Maria.
Does that mean that Jelinski was your winner pick?
I had Maria down. I still have her down as my number 1. But Charlie, I'd as of right now, looking down the barrel of the final, I think Charlie's in the driver's seat. Maybe Kenzie on the outside. Hard to say.
Mike,
going like this. Charlie's.
When you were at the airport, Mike, and you took the photo with Natalie and her dad, and you gave them all those stipulations, do you think they walked away and was like, he not on Survivor? Or do you feel like they was like, oh, he definitely on Survivor?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be a good spy. I was just like, because, you know, right when you leave the island, you're in Fiji. The last thing they tell you is don't say anything to anybody, you know, strict rules, all this stuff. And I'm getting on the plane from LA to go to Boise. I get a Jersey Nike sub and right there. And I was just like, wow, this is going to be such a crazy ride. And it has been.
Yeah.
What was throwing me off when I got back before my season aired, I think our cast leaked, and you get these people that are just fans that just want to stand you writing in your comments. And like, people are writing King Wendell, King of Survivor 36, winner of Survivor 36. I'm like, how do they know?
No.
And I'm deleting certain comments. And it's just like, you got these people that they just pick someone and they latch on. But how am I to know that, you know?
Oh, it's yeah. That would be really crazy. That would be really crazy.
Now, Mike, can I ask you a hypothetical question?
Yes, sir.
You coming back from Fiji and you live in Idaho, right?
Yes, sir.
And say there are 4 other Survivor people that are in Idaho. And you come back and you know the Survivor community, would you reach out to the 4 other people in Idaho to be like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm in the Survivor community. Or would you just, reach out to everybody but one person?
I just talked within our cast. Within our cast, I kept it really quiet until I was Jeff said to us before the island, he goes, look, yeah, there's a lot of legal reasons, don't leak it because we'll come after you, blah, blah. But it was more like, don't mess it up for your friends and family, because let them enjoy the ride of what it is. And I don't want to know what I'm a fan, number one, right? We're all fans of the show. And I don't want to know. I don't want to be spoiled. Jackie, you're talking about your uncle. It's like, we don't want to be spoiled. It's like, I want to do it myself.
Yeah.
I want to climb that mountain myself.
All right, let me rephrase the question, Mike. After the cast is revealed and, it's like you're on Survivor and it's like 10 days until your season airs, would you reach out to the other survivors in your community, be like, hey, my name's Mike,
so I would now, absolutely.
Okay,
but,
thank you.
But I wasn't on anything. I wasn't on Instagram or Twitter, or in fact, when I was doing my application for Survivor, they're like pages of list all your social stuff. I'm like, I have email and a cell. That's it. So I was learning social media as I was coming back from Survivor so that I could have an Instagram and a Twitter or X post postable for the season. And it took me I started it in July. I think July, I started off with me and one friend, and it grows, but I just built it. So I wasn't very internet savvy, to answer your question.
Okay. But hypothetical, say there was a phone book and, it had people on it. Would you reach out to the community and say hey, my name's Mike. How you doing?
The community reached out to me.
Okay, right.
The community reached out to me.
That's funny. Gabler, that's funny you say that, because Brice is trying to draw an analogy from when I got back and I hit up Russell Swan, but I didn't hit up Brice. And what's funny is the community.
Okay.
Brice reached out to me just like
No,
in your case.
I reached out to him, but come to find out, he had hit every he's Mike. There was 1 million messages hello Sandra, my name is Wendell, and I'm a huge fan.
No, it's literally.
He was trying to get in the winners group chat, man.
You can tell you guys are good friends. You can just tell. Nobody takes it out of each other like a good friends, man. That's a good rousing, right?
But I know that you will reach out to me, Mike. That's why.
You know it. I reach out to all the new Survivor people. I mean, I try to reach out to them if they're on Instagram or something, and just wish them luck and welcome into the Survivor family. In fact, I didn't know what a great Survivor community we had until going to Brice and Wendell events. I didn't realize how amazing. And if anybody's never been to one of those, I think it's one of the most fun things I've ever done as a Survivor person, because it's just everybody's talking Survivor, and there's all these survivors in there, which is cool because it's very flat. Everybody's a fan, and once in a while, a fan gets to play, which is super exciting because I'll never be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Jack, Wendell, maybe Brice, but I'm very unlikely. But any of us could be on Survivor, and chances are we could. If you hold it together and get a little lucky, you might win, and that's what's exciting, because it's a hero story every week because you never know who's going to rise up and just find something in themselves and just do something mind blowing. And they do it every week.
Yeah.
You never know when Q's gonna rise up and find the idol on the island.
I
came around on Q. I really enjoyed him. He went from a disaster to I loved watching him. I was cheering for him. I was hoping he played that dang idol.
And just like Chris Noble, he went home with an idol in his pocket.
He did.
Do you think this trend that we are seeing specifically on the season with everyone going home with an idol, do you think you can correlate it to the same thing about them being so pressed about their resume that it's I need to play it, I need to make it the right move, instead of the right move is actually just, even if it's good or bad, play it and be here tomorrow?
Several of them. Well, all of them. Several. It's been 4 though. Jim.
5.
Should 5 now?
Yeah, the last 4 in a row. So that was Jem, Hunter, Tiffany, Venus, Q.
That's not.
Oh
They
my
weren't in a
gosh.
row.
The last 4 were back to back to back.
Not idols. No, because Gem was pre-merge, and
The
then it was
last 4.
The last 4.
Hunter,
Wendell.
Tiffany, Venus, and Q.
you right.
It's crazy. You know, I think people are looking at when they find these idols like a 401k, they're gold bars. They're cash money. You pay. You don't wait for them 20 years to appreciate. You got to get in it, and I think that's been. I think people watching the season will be a little bit quicker to pull the trigger, because I think when people start realizing you have an idol, you just need to play it. Unless you're Faraz or somebody else that can really use it multiple ways, it can end up biting you.
It's a tough conversation for me because, you know, I've never been out there with an idol in my pocket, feeling that burning of the idol. But I do think it's like a lot of the people that are going home with the idols, right? There's sort of a cost benefit because you could play it quickly and make sure you don't go home with it in your pocket. But I do respect that in the mindset of them wanting to play a great game. Now, did they all have the chops for it? Not necessarily, but in the mindset of wanting to make those big moves to put a stamp on your resume and have something to talk about when you get to the end, you're going to be a little bit riskier with it because you want to make sure you use it right rather than using it in a really simple way. And not to say that you want to go home with an idol. And obviously 5 in one season is unprecedented. And I think a lot of these specific players had a lot of reasons. It's easier to say from the couch, but it's a lot of reasons to play it. But I do think having the mindset of, you want to go big or go home. If you're not first, you're last, does encourage holding onto that idol a little bit more closely.
So I think that makes sense, Jack, right? But however, I feel like the last 4 in a row, their names came up. And if my name came, that's enough.
They were in the hot
out.
seat. It wasn't like it came out of nowhere. It's like every tribal Q's name has been on there. Venus's name. It's like, you probably need to do, and then even Hunter knew his name was shooting around.
Agreed.
And just went ahead and, he got a little unlucky with the tie, but still, if you don't have the votes, if you're in doubt, you got to play it. I think that's it. If you're hearing your name.
I absolutely agree with you because, like you said, specifically Hunter, Venus, and Q, if you know your name is one of the 2 options, I think that is when you have to play it. So again, the rambling before about, I think that was what the correlation I was looking at with Brice talking about. Okay, I think these are players who want to make bigger moves, but with some of these instances we're seeing here, they're players that want to make bigger moves, who just might not happen to be the best at the game and at executing those moves. But I think that's why it's made the season so entertaining, is we have players shooting for the stars who might not have a single piece to build that rocket yet. So, yeah.
I like that. And it has been fun. I mean, it was pretty delicious. Some of those were pretty delicious because you're like, there's no way that they're not going to play. Are they setting this up like it's going to be because they'll say something. I know Venus in her show, her last show, said something even like, I've got this. I think I'm not going to play it tonight because I'm going to do something better with it. And you're like, okay, that's a breadcrumb that Jeff, tasty little morsel he tucked in there. And sure enough, I couldn't believe it because I was starting to warm up to her. She was starting. I'm like, she might be cracking into this. She got this thing with Kenzie going, and then just got bushwhacked.
Especially as we get later in the season, Mike. That's sort of what I said is when you're in Gem spot and it's pre-merge, if you're getting voted out with an idol in your pocket pre-merge, maybe then you're not cut out to make it that deep in the game. But in that sense, it's okay to hold on to the idol because it's sort of like a gamble where if I have to play it now, I'm probably in trouble going forward. But when you're at the final 6, the final 7, you're close to that. You're close to securing that win. And yet,
buy yourself a day.
Exactly.
Buy yourself a day. A lot can happen in a day, and buy yourself that time. I had an idol on day 1 or 2 on my season. It was good for my first 2 tribal councils, and I ended up. It's on my wall, and over there, it's like I never did end up playing it, and I kind of used it because people thought I had it, and they didn't know if I had it. They looked in my bag for it. It's like we kind of were, and I was able to use it. Like defensively, because if you tell somebody that you're going to play your idol or you're going to play your shot in the dark,
yep.
And there's only a handful of people to vote for, you're like, well, Wendell's got an idol. Brice
They don't
is a
risk
pretty
it.
shot in the dark. You
They don't
know,
risk it.
let's vote for Jack because he's got nothing, and let's get to another day. And that's sometimes what does happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and in a way, you having an expiration on your idol makes it easier because people are like, well, let him rock for two tribals with this idol. We don't want to take that basically a 50-50 chance. You get through the first one, then it's guaranteed that you can then you're going to use it for sure. So that's what I've said about past New Era seasons where the idols have been very visible, and sometimes having them be so visible kind of just scares people off of throwing your name out at all. But this season has been quite the contrary. Obviously, Q and Venus, their idols were pretty secret. But even like Tiffany, Hunter, their idols were a little bit more public, but people were willing to take that shot. So,
yeah.
What do you guys think? This is jumping forward, but what do you guys think about Q sharing with Maria that he found the idol?
I think it was solid. If that's your number one at this point, it's its own conversation of like, should Q want to go deep with Maria? Sharing it with that one person where you can make that move is not, and especially this late in the game, because early on it's like you share it with your number one, you have to trust that they're going to be with you until this idol sees, whether it gets played or whether it gets flushed out, which is a lot of tribals. But here it's like, if you're just with your number one, it's like, how do we best use this for the next two tribals? I think that's a more easy conversation to have with someone you trust.
But don't you think that, like, I don't know, you only have two tribals, and from Q's stance, like, Maria is the one person that really reached out to him and nourished that relationship, but Maria has connections elsewhere. So, I mean, she's been with Charlie, and you don't necessarily know that she's ready to really take that shot at him. So I don't know. I'm like, I question it.
I'm with you, Wendell. I think, if you're past the merge, if you're certainly past the final 10, your final 8, you get to 6. That's such thin air. Get your base camp another 1,000 feet up by just dropping it. If you're so lucky to find it on the beach, and chaos should be spelled with a Q in the front because he's just lit up. He had people he knew was going to go after him, Liz for sure, and he probably should have just kept that quiet and just played it if he even smelled anything. But even so, if you're at 6, you just play it because you got to get to 5.
This is where I think it's the biggest misstep of Q and Maria, where after Maria won immunity, why wouldn't y'all devise the plan to say, Q, play your idol? I know they're gunning for you. They're not going to come after me. I'm going to hop on board with them. I'm letting you know because you got to let Q know if you're going to say his name or else all hell is going to break loose. But I really thought that she should have had him play his idol and they vote Charlie.
That's
I feel like
smart.
that could have been
Super
$1 million
smart, Brice. Super
move.
smart.
That's it. You're guaranteed.
That might be one of your best ideas I've heard.
Me too. Credit to you, Brice. You're guaranteed. She is guaranteed, and he will guarantee himself. Y'all can pick whoever you want.
That's why I thought it was such a blunder by Maria. And this is the point why maybe I think it's good for someone like Q to share with Maria, because Maria is getting a lot more intel than Q is. And Maria should have known if Q is the other option.
Yes.
Have him play it. And there's something in her. I feel like she's like, maybe if we get to 5, he'll play it for me. But it's just like, just focus on that, the here and now. But ultimately, my biggest issue where I thought Maria and Q really, really blundered.
When it was telling everybody?
No, they didn't tell everybody. It was more just like, what makes them think that Liz and Kenzie are going to go with them over Charlie and Ben? Like, that Liz doesn't mess with you. That you're threats. You've seen blatantly, like we talked about with Charlie picking for reward, how much better he did that than Maria did. You have to have some self-awareness to be like, there's a chance they don't vote with us, and then just play the idol. Yeah, I thought it was a really big misstep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to give Liz her credit, right? Because I was shocked when Q went over to her and was like, let's do Charlie. I said, look at Liz out here going like, okay, yeah, you're right, I'll do it. But that's also where I'm like, Q, the one thing, the gift Liz has given you this season is letting you know what side of the fence she is on.
Yeah.
Why would you get that comfortable to think that you could then just sway Liz over? That's where I was like, Q, what are you doing?
Super great point. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
idol.
Totally agree.
Wow.
It's like, why do you expect these people to vote with you over Charlie and Ben? Like, and
Right.
Kenzie's so close with Ben too. It's like, what?
Yeah. And you know, she's the canary in the coal mine, basically. Liz is the canary in the coal mine, where if Q goes up to her and he's just at all paying attention to what she's going to do instead of trying to cajole her to vote a different way that she's not going to do anyways, just see what she says and read that energy and bank on it.
Yeah. Because Q loves to throw out the plan, and then but it's when you're throwing out all the plans, if you were just like sounds good, you can't really get a read.
Listen, yeah.
And it's also like, I guess, like, and I always say Q is going to be his own worst enemy, right? Where it's like Q got a little power and now he's thinking he could like take charge of the troops. And it's like, Q, no. But I was like, okay, I was interesting just to see Liz going along with the thing. I was like, wow, like look at Liz being able to kind of like pull herself in and kind of play a role. So I was
did.
I see you, Liz.
She did, yeah. She's been a joy to watch as well.
Yes, yeah.
Fun season of people.
I think, and I remember, I heard Jake O'Kane talk a little bit about it on the Rap Live, where he was like, this idol situation is so tough to analyze because every situation is its own situation. It's like you can't. There's no rule of thumb of like if you have an idol, just play it. That's
yeah, right.
But it's so dependent on the situation.
But we talked though about all the flags, the red flags. There was like a sky full of red flags for Q that should have been like, this could be me. I think he probably needed. I think you nailed it when you said that he got his idol and he went from the ground floor to the penthouse mentally, and he was just like, okay, man, I got my groove back, and he's calling the shots. He's talking. Okay, Liz, you do this, and he forgot that he still got a bunch of people aiming at him, and it probably just overrode his initial plan.
Well, and that's what I meant. I kind of lost my train of thought, but I think the key signals that I would point to try to like generalize the idol play is, do I know the alternative plan? And if I don't know the alternative plan, would it make sense that alternative plan is me, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, here Q should know from Maria that the alternative plan is him. So it's like but in the past situations, it's like maybe for a Tiffany where that's a little bit more hard to get that read. Then you could be like, okay, I don't know who so and so are voting for, right? Like she knows the plan was Q, but she doesn't know what Q's plan is, and ultimately, maybe Q's plan, if people know you have an idol, then that blind side of you makes sense. Maybe that's what prompts it. But if you're like at the merge and it's the final 12 and you have an idol and like, okay, like Brice and Wendell are voting for Gabler, but Gabler and Jack are voting for Wendell, and there are all these moving pieces. My name hasn't come up. Okay, then you don't need to play your idol. Like it should be all right.
Yeah, there's a world where call me crazy, but I feel like Q not playing that idol could have really been $1 million fumble for him, because I was like in the beginning, Q could never win, but
but he could win, but he was shifting gears. He was in a different lane.
Yeah.
And again, it reminds me again of like Tony from my original season, where it's like people in the game are hating you and don't like you, but the fact that you're able to get to that end and have that job interview and what you could do in that interview.
What a story he would be able to tell.
Did you see some of the Twitter activity about Q's exit?
No.
From the 46 cast?
No.
Oh no.
Oh, they were ripping him.
And they were ready to do it.
My favorite
really
one. You know how early in the season Q was talking about like, it reminds me of back in high school, like I was the captain of the football team and we were in the state championship, and the title of the newspaper was like Burdette fumbles. Jelinski tweeted last night. He tweeted Burdette fumbles.
Oh,
and then Jess was going in on him.
Jess said something like, "That's what you get for giving me that fake idol
on my face," or whatever.
What did he say, Wendell?
That's what you get for giving me that fake idol or something like that. A bunch of
Oh,
tweeted,
yeah,
like,
right.
you know what he also did? Hot take.
Who
He
Q?
turned on
The season.
He turned on the stove in the kitchen.
Like made this
Oh, yeah.
one of these seasons that we will always remember. And he made this season.
Oh yeah.
For sure. It's been he's had a huge impact. He's been fun to watch. His commentary is great. Bad idea. I mean, he's
Bad
fun.
idea.
Big
Cancel
mistake.
Christmas. Q skirt. Like
Yeah.
his 6 that he demolished. There's so many things that he did this season.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
because it was
virtually-
kind of a soft start with it was a little. I mean, Jelinski was awesome. Bonnie struggled for a little while there, and that was kind of hard because it was hard to watch the poor guy struggling, and then you're like, but you're also like, okay, it's the game.
Wait.
Let's get it going. Pull him off the field, let him go, let the guys go. But it certainly started with Vanu and Q and the gang because it was very fun.
Yeah, it definitely It started slow, but picked up to be a great post merge.
0 to 100.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a quandrid.
But yeah, no, I think he's virtually potentially a lock for season 50 because he was, whether you love him or you hate him, you feel some type of way about him. And that's what makes such a compelling
You're gonna watch, yeah.
player. So.
On his RHAP interview, his last line is, "If you don't call me for Survivor 50, cancel Survivor."
No way. Dude, that's awesome. Okay, he's probably I'd say he'd be great TV. I know I'd be watching. So
Yes. I tune in. Yeah.
It's
There was an interesting. I saw an interesting sort of discussion about season 50 though, where it's like a lot of these players that could be brought back now have this understanding of like the perception of them, and so they might play into that perception too much rather than being like their authentic self, which created that fun caricature of them. So it's almost like you'd see Q come back. I can only imagine he'd have like the most insane antics. He would have like licensed Q skirts he'd be wearing. I don't know how I would feel about it, but it would be unreal for sure.
It definitely would love to see Q back, but I think similar to Tony from my season, his first time returning, when you have such a big personality like that, it can work for you, or you could like kind of fumble really early.
Yeah.
So
I think there'd be a high danger of that.
Yeah.
And Tony sort of played into that caricature of himself too, where day one he's like, "All right, I'm looking for idols," like takes off.
That's right. That's right.
So
And it got him knocked out.
Yeah.
And there's also jealousy. And there's also, I don't want to see this person. I'm not even gonna let him have this piece. Yeah, like I could see that really backfiring.
You know what? That's really good. Yeah, that would be the only thing about not building him on there, because I think unless but we're assuming he'll be the same Q or Q type 2, which is even bigger. And when Boston Rob came back, his game, he tried to do like the same thing when he was the Rob boss. And what worked for him on the last season did not work here, and he wasn't able to make that adjustment. And I think if Q is going to be successful, it'll have to be a whole new Q that we see. It'll have Q-isms because he's naturally going to do those, and I hope so. I hope that never stops. But he'll have to be a different Q, because otherwise he's going to be put in the Q box of chaos, and no one's going to want to work with him.
My exact suggestion is to study Tony's 3 seasons. If I'm suggesting anything to Q, because we will see him on season 50. Hey Q, my friend, look at how they did him on Game Changers, and look at Tony came to Winners at War. I could not recognize this person. He was so humbled. He would build the shelter with me all day. I'm like, where is I'm like, and he just stayed so low. Meanwhile, he was up all night looking for idols, but this was an unrecognizable Tony.
Yeah.
And Game Changers humanized him so much that it's like, man, we could get this guy out anytime.
Yes.
But as he got some steam and post-merge, he turned it on. So Q, Quintavious Burdett, my friend, study Tony's 3 seasons and play like his 3rd season if you come back, and then turn that Q on.
Excellent advice.
Also, remember, Q is not the only colorful character in the Survivor catalog, right? Like, and so I think that there is a world where he could be
There's a-
around. Like, there's a world where Q could really be low on the totem pole of personality, depending on who he's out there with. So it would be very interesting to see.
Well, for season 50, there's been a lot of things floated out there. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. Nobody does. But as a fan, I kind of want all the things, right? I'd love, how great would it be if they had like 50 people, 5 tribes of 10. Maybe you go a couple days with that. And then everybody comes out of the jungle. There's 50 fire making stations, and the top 20 to make fire go. I mean, you could do that. You could have 5 tribes of 10 competing for 50 days for $5 million, or do whatever you want to do. There could be all kinds of cool things going.
I saw that advertisement for this thing, the Beast Games, Mr. Beast, and that's for $5 million. So, and Winners at War is for $2 million. This is about to be season 50. I could see them doing a special number for 50, Gabler.
I think that's only fair. And I think it'd be, put all the things out there. I'd love to see. I think it's going to be exciting. Jeff's the biggest Survivor fan of anybody. So, it's going to be good. I just can't wait. It's like Christmas. You got to wait like a couple of years for it. And it's going to be good.
Is that why they've been cutting this budget for these last 6 seasons? They've been like holding back so that.
Whoa. I can only imagine if they did do that, that would be so sick because, those there are 300 people on the crew that take care of build those amazing challenge contraptions that we do. And when you come out of the jungle, it's really amazing how big they actually are, right? It's like 2 football fields, and you're just like, wow, they built it. It's just really incredible. It's also a little intimidating, but because Jeff walks you through it, you got 3 minutes to figure it out, and then you go. So,
or just the size of the crew itself is intimidating, in my opinion. Like, it's like all these people, just not what it looked like on TV.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild.
Yeah, but regardless, we have our final 5. And I don't think I could have predicted this final 5 several days ago. But
yeah. Can we all lock in a winner pick going into the finale?
Okay, I'm riding or die. Okay, all right. I'm going with my Dr. Maria. I don't care.
I'll go Charlie.
Maria was my pick, and I'm sticking with her. I'm sticking with Maria.
I'll even the numbers up, going Charlie too. So
can we give a moment to Maria for her challenge win?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. That was clutch. She had to do it.
Yeah,
build the puzzle. Fun puzzle too.
That was a fun puzzle.
It was super fun. She was such a clutch win. That was a big win. When you need it, you need it. And like last season of Australian Survivor, when Ferris, he hadn't won a single immunity all season. He gets to the final and, just is able to do what he had to do because he was certainly going to go. And that's what real champions do out there. And I think it's really going to be fun because the final 5 left. Maybe the Survivor gods will lean towards Liz or Ben, but they haven't really looked at them fondly during challenges yet. So you think you got Charlie the Challenge Beast, you got Maria up there, and Kenzie is kind of the dark horse. You never know. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. And Dr. Maria did that, like, just when she needed to do it, and just her strength. And so sometimes I always feel like things don't happen when you want them to happen, right? And although she would have loved to read those letters from her sons and children, but forget the letters. How amazing is it for them to see the roller coaster their mom went on in this episode, and for her to come out like, look at me. So I just love that for her and for her children. Also, it's like, I just want to give another shout out to from season 30, Mama C. I think there are so many similarities of Dr. Maria and Mama C, and I think that people forget the greatness Mama C was out there. Mama C was kind of like counted out. She was allegedly older because when I see Mama C in person, she's like 22. So I don't know why they're categorizing her as older. But Mama C had the social game. Mama C was a beast, and Mama C was a lethal. And so I just see so many similarities between Mama C and Maria. And so again, just shout out to Maria, and also shout out to Mama C.
Great point. Great comparison. For sure. It's been special watching them. And we'll see. You know, Kenzie's one that's, you know, she's hiding in plain sight right now. I think she's somebody that cannot be underestimated
Right.
or at your own peril. She's got Ben. Ben owes her as well. They're close, and he owes her. I think she's got Liz. There's 5 people. So there's 3, 2, the math. Kenzie's in a real powerful spot. And she's somebody that can win challenges, as we've been proven. And so it's going to come down to winning the immunity, I believe. That's going to dictate everything. I think that's going to be very important.
That's the thing. I think Maria might go at 5 if she doesn't win immunity, and then
Agreed.
I think Charlie could be a clear target at 4. But it's just, you know, who could beat Charlie in fire is the big question for me. And we don't really know. We know Liz is not really good on the fire, but I don't really know what Charlie, Kenzie, and Ben are, where they're at with it. So if they could take Charlie out at 4 / Charlie Maria in the next 2 votes, I mean, I think it's an easy win for Kenzie. So she's definitely got a good shot.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to tune in next week to see what's going to happen. I will be in New York. I know Jack will find his way to be under a speaker somewhere in our finale to watch the episode. Mike, I can't thank you enough for coming on our podcast. I feel like ever since you started coming to our parties, after I met your beautiful wife, I feel like our relationship has blossomed. I love
love you, man.
I love our text messages. I feel like I'm like a little kid texting my like younger, handsome uncle. So it's been so great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Wendell.
I very much value you, man. It's been great. I love watching. He's got a groundhog that's been showing himself in the forest behind him. We've been sending videos. It's great, man. I think it's awesome. And you know, Wendell, our whole Survivor community, Jack, we got to meet briefly, and you know, it's really fun. Those I definitely look forward to coming to some of those next year for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. You're such a stand-up guy and a great winner, and we appreciate you very much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Well, thanks for joining us.
This has been your Survivor News. We'll be back next week for the conclusion of season 46. We're Gabler out of here.